All right, so today we're talking about one of these things that I get asked this so often. And, there's a lot of information out there about this, but we're gonna solve this once and for all. And what I'm talking about is this feeling that players have when they're coming down into impact and they feel themselves pop up out of their posture, okay? And so everybody thinks that that is the problem itself, right? So I always get this question, like, I keep coming up through impact. How do I stop that? And so the answer to this question is that popping up out of your posture through impact is a symptom. It's not a problem of its own, okay? And the problem, the thing that it's a symptom of is flipping or casting from the top of the swing. So that's why I call this timing the jump, okay? And when I talk about the jump, what I'm talking about is this lifting up out of the posture, just calling this the jump. It's almost like jumping off the ground kind of move. Some people do it so severely it almost looks like a jump. So we call this timing the jump. And the reason I call it that is because what you're doing with that is you're jumping or you're lifting up out of your posture in order to create space for the club at impact. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. So when you flip or you cast from the top of the swing, what you're doing is you're extending the distance of basically the length of your shoulder down to the club right here, right? So if I retain this angle more, I'm shortening the distance from the club to my shoulder. If I extend that angle, I'm lengthening the distance from the club to my shoulder. So this is what all those really good players do so well, is that they lag the club and they delay that release, right? So all that's happening there, and the reason that you're popping up out of your posture is because when you release the angle on the downswing, you're essentially lengthening this relationship here so that if you did stay down in your posture, what would happen is you would hit the ground way back here, right? So all you're doing is timing the jump or the lift up out of your posture to clear space for the club head to miss the ground on its way to the ball. It's really that simple, okay? So it's not a problem in itself, this lifting up out of the posture. It is a symptom of another problem. And that problem is this move here in the downswing, all right? So if you can picture this, I'm going, and now I release that angle, boom. Right? I cast it, flip at it, boom, that's where I'm gonna hit. And so often, this manifests differently with different clubs too. So a lot of times this will result in topping those fairway woods or those hybrids out of the fairway, okay? And the difference there is that when you're hitting an iron, you're gonna flip and you're gonna cast and it's gonna tend to dig back here, then you'll hit it fat. But when you're hitting those hybrids, it's a much thicker sole and it's a lot more forgiving and it tends to bounce off the turf, right? Instead of digging. So then it's still the same thing. The bottom of your swing arc's back here and now you're catching the ball on the upswing, hit it in the forehead and hit that topped shot. So this is this is the bane of so many players' existence, this whole casting move. So let's break it down here a little bit and give you a couple of ways to work on this. And the first thing that I want to say about this right off the bat is just that there is nobody. I've only been teaching this for 25, really going on 30 years now, but I have yet to see a single person in all that time who can learn this, what we're essentially talking about here, which is leading with the hands a little bit more instead of letting the club head flip past the hands through impact. And I have yet to see anybody, which is also called lag. It's also called holding the angle. Casting is called, you know, early extension, casting, all those things that we don't want. These are all just kind of the terminologies, but we're all just talking about the same thing, which is hitting down is another one, right? Because we want that ball, then that turf contact in front. So hitting down, lag, holding the angle, it's all the same thing. Casting, early extension, flipping, that's all the same thing. That's obviously what we don't want, right? So, but I have yet to see a single person in all my time of teaching this who can learn this full speed with full swings. And that's what everybody wants to do, right? Everybody wants to go out and go, oh, I got this new thing I'm working on. And they want to go out and they want to go to the range and start beating balls, working on this stuff full speed with full swings. And you just cannot learn this hands forward, lag, hitting down, whatever you want to call it. You can't learn that at full speed with full swings. You really have to chunk it down, slow it down, and make these smaller swings. But I want to give you a couple of tools on how to do that. Okay, so, and we're going to use alignment sticks here for a couple of these feels. And alignment sticks are something everybody should have. Obviously, I mean, I think it's obvious that everybody should have these. They're great for working on alignment, of course, right? Alignment is absolutely key. That's why in every one of my videos, you will see this on the ground. This is called the T-Box alignment aid. I love this thing because you put there's a T right here that holds it in the ground. And then whenever you want to change targets, all you do is lift this back T and you can move the whole thing and these stay parallel. So you don't have any of that, you know, stepping back around behind going, wait, are those two alignment rods parallel? Are they aimed where I want? You know how you have to keep stepping back. If you've ever used alignment rods for alignment, you know you have to keep stepping back and really take 3 or 4 times to get it just right. With this, you don't. So that's why I use the T-Box alignment aid for alignment, and that frees up my alignment sticks for some things that we're gonna do here with it. So the first thing here, here's just a nice little feeling to get with this with the alignment sticks. And all that you're gonna do with this is you're gonna put the alignment stick under the grip of the club here, okay? And then you can just go ahead and just grip it like you would normally. Now I've got an extension off the end of the club. And that's really going to help me with the feeling here of what we wanna feel is try to just drag that alignment stick through impact. And you can see what that does to everything here, right? If I'm gonna drag the alignment stick through impact, now I'm exaggerating the hands forward. I'm really going to exaggerate that lag. If I were to do what most people wanna do, you can see how I'm gonna hit the ground way back there. So this is kind of, I always talk about the role of exaggeration in making a swing change. And so when you first start working on these kinds of things and learning these kinds of things, you really want to exaggerate the heck out of it. And this is something that's going to force exaggeration of the retention of this angle, the lag, as people call it. It's going to exaggerate the hands forward at impact. And the other little benefit to this is that when you're doing this, when you're holding more of that lag angle, something has to get the hips to rotate through, or has to get the club to pull through impact. And when you're not doing it with the hands, you're gonna tend to do it more with the hips too. So this really helps with a lot of different things. So that's a good place to start with this. Just try to get a full hinge right here with a short little backswing, and then just drag that alignment stick through the impact area here. And this is going to start to give you a lot of those different feelings. If I'm doing this too, now all of a sudden, what do you notice happens? I have to stay in my posture to do this, right? So if I lift and flip, I'm going to hit back here and I'm coming up out of that. But if I'm going to drag this thing through, look what it does to my upper body. Drag this thing through, and now I'm really staying in that spine angle through impact, which is what we want. So that is the first piece of this, just to kind of get the feeling of it. Now, the next piece to this, I don't know why I put that alignment stick back or why I even have two out. I could have used the one for both of the things that I'm going to show you here. I grabbed two alignment sticks and stuck them in the ground and felt like I had to switch between them for some reason when I went to this. So the next thing that you're going to do here is you are going to put the alignment stick in the ground, maybe just a few inches behind where the golf ball is here, at an angle tilted towards your target. Okay, so now we get the one alignment stick out of the way here, and we're working on these exact same feelings in a very different way here. And now what we're doing is we're trying to picture the shaft of this club matched up with the alignment stick through impact. And we're just starting to, I mean, really, really small swings when you first start really working on this. Small swings like this, small swings like this, right? And then this is where you would just go ahead and hit one. And when you hit one with this, this is where I really recommend something like, I always say 1/8 length, 1/8 speed to start with this. And that's about where most players can do this, can actually get the hands leading a little bit more through impact. If you go any bigger and faster than that, most players will tend to start getting a little bit of that flipping with the hands, a little bit of that casting through impact. And I would also mention that, you know, 1/8, 1/8, realistically, I don't know if it's really 1/8, 1/8. That's just the feeling. It's the feeling of an extreme exaggeration of a short swing. Have you heard me talk about the role of exaggeration in making these swing changes? So that is a huge exaggeration of a small short swing. 1/8 length, 1/8 speed. And so now we're just going to, and I like to see you make two little practice waves with this. So we're going to go shaft matching alignment stick, shaft matching alignment stick. Now I'm just going to go 1/8, 1/8. And that's it. That is a really, and you can see that ball goes nowhere. But if we looked at that swing from the front view here, you would see that that's probably going to be a pretty big exaggeration of the hands leading through impact, probably more than we want. And if you look at that video from this down the line view, what you will see is, because I'm retaining all of that angle, I'm really going to stay down in my posture through impact. So, and one other thing that I will mention with this is, I really think it is such a great idea. You know, when I was learning all this stuff way back when, we didn't have, I was a 15 handicap slicer, by the way. That's that's a different part of my story than most coaches have. So I wasn't some tour player or something, near miss tour player. And so that's why I feel like I've been through everything that you will go through with this. So I know what it feels like to make these changes. And that's one of the reasons I know the extreme exaggeration. Then, of course, taking thousands and thousands of players through this process over the last 25, 30 years since I owned my golf tech learning centers back in Phoenix and Tucson. So I'm not, I'm not some near miss tour pro out here, preaching on things that I've never had to work on or learn myself. So I know a little bit about this process. And the other thing that I would recommend with this for you is to start using video. And back when I learned this, we didn't have the benefit of that, but and you really have to use video responsibly. Video, we all have a camera in our pocket now. And the purpose here is not to, obsess over every little swing detail or something like that. We really just want to occasionally record a swing, especially when you're working on this, because what you're going to find is when you feel like you're making really small, short swings, you're not, okay? The swings you're always going to make a bigger, faster swing than what it feels like. And if I had $1 for every time I stood in a Golf Tech bay back when I owned my Golf Tech learning centers and was teaching lessons in there, and I would actually show somebody the swing that they just made on video right in front of them, and we're working on going hip high to hip high, maybe a little L to L length swing, and they would hit one, and then I would pull up their swing and I would show it to them, and they would go, nah, that's not the swing I just made. And I mean, I'm not kidding. They thought that I was lying to them, okay? And so that is how different feel is from real. So when you're working on something like this and you think you're making a small swing, you probably aren't. And using video is the only way that you're gonna know for sure. Don't obsess over looking at all these different crazy, crazily obsess about all these different things that you've learned or heard about the swing. Just look for one thing. What's my length of swing? And am I getting this shaft of my club matched up with that alignment stick there? So now after you've gone with that for a little bit, and hit a few with that 8th length, 8th speed, now is where you start to go a little bit more quarter length, quarter speed. And again, this is one of the values of video, because as you start to work on this, you will start to see that there comes a length of swing where you start to see that cast and that flip creep back in there. That's the place where you want to work on this, okay? You always want to be working kind of right in the edge of your capabilities. So if you are, like most players, you'll probably pretty quickly be able to do this pretty easily with an 8th length, 8th speed swing. When you go to quarter length, quarter speed, some players will start to, a little bit of that flip or that cast will come back in there. 3/4, almost certainly, if this is the first time you're really working on this, you'll start to flip and cast it a little bit. So that means that now you're in that place where you're trying to get from an 8th swing to a quarter swing and be able to get the shaft of the club matched up with that alignment stick. Then you'll be working towards 3/4 length, 3/4 speed. So the next piece to this, maybe a little bit of a maybe a little bit longer than a quarter, but this is what I call L, okay? And this is an L position right here where the hands are below the trail hip here, right? So we go L to L. And that's no bigger or longer of a swing than that. And we're still trying to really keep that slow speed with this, okay? So now we're going L, and now I'm trying to match up the shaft with the alignment stick to L. And now it's L to L. And now we're thinking this is a little bit more maybe quarter length, quarter speed. And now we're just going to go L to L. And that was probably a little more. I'll tell you what, that is another thing that you will find with this. I mean, that ball just popped off the club face. And that's what you will find when you do this tiny little swing, because what we are learning here, this is all about efficiency. This is where those efficient strikes come from. This is what makes the ball pop off the club face. And so all of these things working together, right? We are now we are holding that angle a little bit more, not really working on holding the angle. We're just trying kind of getting to those matching, but we're holding that angle. That's going to force your hips to start to rotate. And when you pop one off the center of the club face, it is going to be a different sensation than you've ever felt. That is what compression is, right? That is, so, if you want to know what compression is and what it feels like, that is what it feels like. And that's what just happened right there on that swing. I got to grab my tee. It flipped way back here. And we'll just hit one last little one here and wrap this up. And, and then obviously, eventually you are, you're going to go to something that's 3/4, 3/4. Maybe we'll just do that right now, right? Which is 3/4, 3/4. And but same thing, always going back to our little practice waves, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, and this is just L to L. And again, you know, just the ball just pops off the club face with a tiny, tiny little swing. If you look at that swing on video, to me, it feels like I'm maybe right here, but I guarantee you, I'm like everybody else. I go further and longer than what I feel like I do when I make these swings. And I'll bet if we looked at that on video, I'll bet I was more like up here, almost full length swing, even though it felt like a tiny, tiny little swing there. So that is, I hope that helps you really understand that this timing the jump concept, okay? And so don't be one of those players who's going, oh, I can't stay down, I can't stay down. That is not the issue. What's happening there is your brain is making an adjustment to save your contact so that the club doesn't slam in the ground because you flip and cast through impact. And remember, there's nobody out there who can learn this with anything but these small, slow swings. And watch yourself on video, because I guarantee you feel is not real. But I hope that gives you some tools to start working on this. These are the skills that I take you through in my full swing course. There's a very logical progression of skills that you need to build and learn and stack on top of each other to really get to a point where you're starting to make progress with this. But I hope that gives you a much better understanding of the timing, the jump issue. That's not the issue. It's a symptom of the real issue. The real issue is this, and you've got to work on it with these really small swings.